This week on the Notorious Scoundrels podcast.
That's assuming they only have one unit of Tauntauns. So
no, the displacement rules is the...
Newsflash, they won't have just one. No way.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a podcast focused on tactics and competitive play for Star Wars Legion. Hosted by Kyle Dornbos, Michael Barry, and David Zelenka, with Jay Shalansky, the man behind the glass.
Welcome back to Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm joined by Mike and David. How you guys doing?
pretty good.
Doing good. I'm working on my Tauntauns. They're mostly painted up. So still got some left to go, but I'm looking forward to actually putting them on the table once they're fully painted.
What color are you painting your Tauntauns? Are they going to be like snow Tauntauns? Are they going to be like some of those sweet Tauntauns from Star Wars: The Old Republic that are 6 billion different colors?
Well, I have this strange habit of buying models that are gray and then painting them gray.
Nice.
So they're actually going to be gray with black claws and kind of like a really light gray dry brush. They're supposed to fit my army's kind of ashen volcano theme, kind of blasted world theme.
Is the rider dude also going to be gray?
No, actually, they're wearing these sort of modified traditional veterans uniforms with red scarves because red's the army color.
Okay,
and then they have some different colored blankets on the backs of the saddles to signify which Tauntauns belong to which unit.
That's dope. Explain to me some of the narrative here. How did these furry beasts end up on this volcano planet?
I don't know. They're just like, they're some sort of distant cousin, you know. They evolved parallel to Tauntauns, I guess. I don't know.
It's just like snow troopers. They're not snow troopers. They're hazard troopers.
Hostile environment.
Tauntauns are like hostile environment lizards.
Snow troopers didn't evolve. That's just gear.
You know what? We're talking about a world with laser swords and arcing shots in space. So, you know.
I mean, it's just like a video game. We just reskinned them.
There you go.
They used their model to save money.
That's where I was headed with that. That's all Star Wars: The Old Republic did, is they just like reskinned like Tauntauns and stuff in like 1,500 different colors, and it was like, oh, well, we've got new mounts.
Yeah, so the rebellion just reskinned their Tauntauns to save money. I don't know.
All right, so some housekeeping. We have a giveaway to announce, and that giveaway is a Clone Wars core set.
Pretty sweet.
Yep, and the release of Clone Wars to the general public, obviously, is not until it is probably at least September. If you didn't get to Gen Con, you can get yourself an early core set. So it will be randomly selected from a pool of people that you can essentially get like more entries for doing things like liking us on Facebook, subscribing on YouTube. There's like 2 other things which I'm forgetting. This is why I don't do plugs. But Basically, if you
I'm enjoying
like our stuff
out right now.
I know.
He's like, well, I'm scoring.
This is Jay. We need to put this stuff in the show notes. All right. So like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you might win a core set. And do 2 other things, which I can't remember, which we'll tell you next week.
Stay tuned to find out.
So that is a giveaway. We also need... Mike and I are in the Northern Virginia area, so our home event is Nova Open, which we are very excited about. And that's in 3-ish weeks. So that is a grand championship, which is, I think, 4 spots for Worlds. But in addition to the tournament, there is also each evening a narrative event, which looks super fun. There's it's like a progression over multiple days, and it's Rebels versus Empire.
Mm-hmm.
So no mirror matches, totally themed. But they are short on Rebels.
Imagine that.
Yeah, we have a lot of Empire players in the DC area / Northern Virginia area, so they're like grossly short on Rebels right now. So if you're a Rebel player and you like Legion and you're free in the evenings at Nova Open, go ahead and sign up for that, and win some glory for the Rebel Alliance. So
bring your Tauntauns.
And bring your Tauntauns because they're awesome.
Their belly needs more Tauntauns.
Yep. Also, plugging the Patreon again. We have a Patreon. We just reached the $500 a month level, which means we're going to do battle reports. And if we hit 1,000, that means we're going to start streaming stuff. So we are like events and things like that. If you saw our Adepticon Last Chance Qualifier and High Command stream from this March, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, March.
Your numbers, man.
We love you, Jay.
He's got kids. His time is warped. You know,
it's like, that's true.
It is. No, it really is. The days like just totally blend together. I don't. Yeah.
I don't know where I am.
Right. Yeah. What were we talking about? Streaming. Adepticon. If you like.
Choo choo.
Am I doing this on purpose or not, Jay? That's the question. If you liked our streaming, support us on Patreon. So, yeah, that's it for housekeeping. Let's hit some. So we're going to talk about a couple things today. We're going to talk about we have had no shortage of preview articles from FFG, so they dropped another one on us last week with those specialist packs. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk in our Legion 101 section about displacement, because that is a very hot topic with Tauntauns trampling all over gun lines.
And dewbacks, don't forget dewbacks.
Yeah, dewbacks soon will be. They're probably going to be this month or maybe early next month, somewhere in there. That's the next release, the next normal release. So
speaking of dewbacks, we've got some sweet dewbuckle shirts for our $25 and over Patreon subs.
We do.
So
yep.
Check that out.
So for those that missed it, all of the Gen Con dewbacks that were sold were on ATST sized bases, which is obviously not the right size. So while we briefly bowed to our extremely fast flame lizard overlords, FFG did decide they said they would ship the correct size bases if you got one that was incorrect. So there's a link floating around on the Discord and on Facebook and such that you can go to request your correctly sized base if you got one.
Yeah,
check that out.
It's the standard missing parts page.
Yeah.
And it's just you just put in that you are missing the dewback base, and they'll send you a new one.
Yep. And if you already put it on your ATST size base and spent a bunch of work basing it and making pretty little bushes and stuff on it, I'm sorry.
I gotta say, I know we're super tangentially now, but Matt, Derek, and Luke were amazing. They as soon as everybody figured it out, within 3 hours, they were all over social media handling the issue. Thank you.
Yep, totally. So that would be Matt Holland, Derek Fuchs, and Luke Eddy, the sculpting lead, the community dude, and Luke Eddy, the developer for FFG.
Nice.
Yeah, I think his official title is community lead. Yeah. Anyway, Matt, I'm sorry if I just butchered your title. But yes, they were all over Facebook. They were all over Discord interacting with people. So thanks, guys. It's great to see that kind of, direct interaction with FFG. So, so we're gonna look at in the tactics section. We're actually gonna look at what the meta looks like post Tauntauns, because Tauntauns are making a scene. Maybe we're going to talk about some counters to that, including perhaps a comeback of linebacker units. And then if we have time, we've got an exploration section where we're going to talk about triple IRG, because Mr. David LeBlanc out in California won an RPQ with it, so which is pretty impressive. No Palp in that list either, just Veer's triple IRG. So,
welcome to In the News.
All right, you guys want to talk some specialist pack weapons?
Can we talk about how dope those aliens look? Because, oh my god.
Yeah. So I was super excited to see these for multiple reasons. The first is So I should caveat this. We're going to limit our discussion today to the Rebel and Empire weapons / upgrades because it's going to be a while before we see the anything for droids and separatists. Sorry, droids and separatists. Those are the same thing for separatists and clones. Outside of those that have Gen Con stuff, but also their weapons weren't like fully spoiled, but the Rebel and Empire stuff was. So we're going to limit our discussion to that, but there's plenty to talk about there. I was super excited to see these just because it means, there's alternatives to Z6s and DLTs.
Sort of.
Yes.
Well, I mean, one of the new weapons is a DLT. But
there are certainly alternatives. They just happen to be C6s and DLT.
No, and they look like legit alternatives. This is not a release where it's another exhaust weapon. You're like, oh, I'm never going to take that. They look like they're priced pretty well. The effects look interesting. They look like side grades, which is perfect.
I mean, how could you not want to field an Ithorian with a shotgun in your army? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. So you don't even have to give them the shotgun. So the other thing about the models, Derek actually came on the Discord and talked about this, is that the arms and stuff are swappable.
Yeah.
So if you want to make just and they also have normal, like in the Rebel kit, they have like A20As, which is the Rebel Trooper normal weapon, and in the Stormtrooper kit, they have E11s apparently, which is like the normal, Stormtrooper weapon. So if you want to make like an Ithorian with an A20A and just make him like a normal Rebel Trooper dude and put him in one of your Rebel Trooper units, you can do that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I don't know. They all just look so good. So the one thing that I really had a bone to pick with Rebels when they came out was they were all human.
Yep.
There's not a human in this pack. Love it.
Yep. Every single one is an alien.
And my buddy plays Ithorians and our like RPG stuff exclusively, and I haven't ever been able to really find like a good model for his dude. Now I've got one. It's gonna be
there.
Great.
You go. It's perfect. Yep.
But how about these weapons?
Yeah, so let's do the Rebels first because Rebels are better.
I'm going to be honest.
I'm just kidding.
But I do think the Rebels came out better on top here.
We'll see. It's fun to get It's yeah. All right, let's talk about the shotgun. It is the SX21. It's got 2 red, 2 white. It doesn't have critical or anything fancy like that, but it does have impact. Unfortunately, there's range 1 to 2 because it's a shotgun. So it's basically an impact shotgun. But it comes in at, 20 points?
Yes.
So that's pretty good. I mean, it's hard to complain about something that costs 20 points, right?
Yeah, considering that, you upgraded, you got a 60-point unit, and you can put, frag grenades on it for 65. Like, that's pretty tight.
Yeah, I mean, so the dice on this thing are really strong, 2 red, 2 white. They don't surge, obviously, and it doesn't have pierce, so it's not going to be, quite as strong as Fleet Troopers, but they can also, they're cheaper by 7 points than Fleets with a shotgun. And 5 black dice at range 3, which is not terrible. If Fleets can't throw any dice at range 3, so
Fleets also don't have nimble.
I mean, I think that this is actually overall a better comparison to Z6. Just in that it's more efficient. Like the shotgun is better on average. It has a lower ceiling, but it is less points than the Z6. And on average, it's going to have a higher hit pool.
Yeah, so let's talk about numbers real quick. So I did run efficiency calcs on these because I was super excited to see new weapons. So the SX21 on average gets you 4 hits, which is a half a hit more than a 5-man Z6 unit. And it costs 2 less points. So that comes in at 0.067 net hits per point, which is still shy. still shy of Fleet Troopers, but that's like way more than a Z6. Z6 is 0.056, so that's like what, like 15 to 20% more than a Z6.
Yeah, and it's got to be. I would imagine the like the standard deviation's got to be a lot narrower, right? Because of those red dice. I would guess.
Right, exactly. The variance, like on your outcomes, is much lower because you're pretty much always banking 2 hits with those red dice.
We're doing it 3/4 of the time, right? Because of the no surge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Death Trooper pool, but without surge. It's actually identical. You've got 4 blacks, 2, except for you got 1 extra white dice, so it's 4 blacks, 2 reds, 2 whites.
60 points, people. 60 points.
For
60 points.
Yeah.
And it has impact, if you got a tank up in your grill.
It fires, I guess, for lack of a better term, an AP round, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
This feels like the Rebel Swiss Army knife to me, in that it can deal with vehicles a little better than the Z6 can. It deals with troopers. Like it's definitely range 2, and you don't want to be close generally as rebels. So that might be its downfall.
At least not as rebel troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do feel like as far as once this gun is in range, it's far more Swiss Army knifey than the Z6 ever was.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's straight up better as far as hits are concerned, and you get impact in the bargain. So
it's also fantastic at engaging the tank, the occupier. Like I would love to have a unit of these just like in my pocket and use them as close range support.
Seems like a good one of like instead of taking fleets.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Like take 3 to 4 combinations, Z6 DLTs, and then like one of these.
Right. Plus, if you've got like a build where you're like 1 or 2 points shy, there's your 1 or 2 points right there.
Yep. Exactly. Just chop, 62 down to 60 and you're good.
Yeah. Super handy.
Speaking of DLTs, how long have Rebels been crying for a DLT?
Forever. The answer to that is forever.
Since release.
Since the game came out.
And you know what? Now we get one.
Yeah.
So it is the DLT 20, which is 1 number more than the DLT 19, which means it's better.
Clearly,
sort of.
higher numbers mean better.
What does the letter on the end of it mean? Does that like
A? I don't know.
A, is that like an alpha build, an alpha prototype build, or whatever? I don't know.
It probably means it's a version that's not finished yet.
I'm gonna Google this while we're talking because I'm curious. It is called a long blaster. Apparently, that's the nickname for it.
It's called a what?
A long blaster.
A long blaster.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was a prize.
It was a long rifle.
I guess. It doesn't say what the A stands for. That's unfortunate. All right. Anyway, what it does do is throw dice at range 4.
It does more than that, though, Kyle.
Yeah,
it does a lot more.
It does a lot more than that. So it's 2 black and a white. It is critical 1,
which is probably the most important part.
Yeah,
that is savage.
Yeah, it's the dice are good, but critical 1 on a unit that doesn't surge to hit. Now you can not be sad about rolling surges with your rebel troopers.
I mean, effectively, you throw this in it's a 5-man rebel unit, right? You've got 7 dice. On average, critical 1 is surge to crit.
Right. Yep.
I mean, it's not quite surge to crit, so don't quote me on that. But it is effectively surge to crit on average.
Right.
So, which is pretty good.
It does cost 4 more points than the DLT or than the Z6, though.
Yes. You also can put suppression tokens down at range 4, which I'm sure you've been dying to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also way more effective than the standard DLT because of critical 1, in that on average it puts way more stuff at range 4 through heavy cover.
Yep.
Yeah, with the 3 dice pool, like what are the chances you roll crit surge? Like that's pretty good.
It is. So let's talk some numbers. So real quick, it averages when you do the full pool at range 3, it's like 3.85-ish hits. So without critical, it would be like the raw dice would just be 3.25. So critical adds about a little over half of a hit.
So it's still slightly better than the Z6 on average.
Right, because the Z6 is 3.5 at range 3.
Yeah, okay. Notably though, it's more expensive.
It is more expensive. It's 26 points instead of 22 for the Z6. But because of critical, it is still slightly more efficient than the Z6. What did I say earlier? Z6 is 0.056 net hit per points. DLT is 0.058, so slightly more.
So what you're paying for is the range 4 and the keyword, right? Not much more.
Yep, and it's a more reliable dice pool because it's got 2 blacks in there and it's got the critical, so you're not wasting that surge.
It's going to be a lot harder to spam though, which is the good news.
It is.
Yeah, because you're talking about a 66-point rebel trooper unit.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't hit 68-point core units yet? I feel so bad for you. I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? They don't have red saves.
Yeah, they
don't care. That's not the point.
I'm trying to fit my 180 plus point hero into every list.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm trying to fit my 235 point hero.
Every list. That's true. That's true. Fine.
All right. Whatever. So I'm excited about both of these. They both seem like viable alternatives to the Z6 without being like auto upgrades.
Yeah.
And that's what you want, right? You don't want an obvious better choice.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think either of them are obviously better. But I do think of the two, the DLT is almost certainly the better gun.
Well, it's definitely like more likely to be useful. It's just
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I think it's more likely to see play.
Right.
I agree with you, but I gotta say I have so many builds that are like 1 point shy, and I'm looking forward to finding that 1 point
and just dropping down to the shotgun.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll probably not miss it because I'm going to operate a squad pretty close anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
It lets me like take some other upgrade, like, I'm 1 point shy of stims on this build, or I'm 1 point shy of strict orders on this build,
Yeah. I guess the main question for me is how many Z6s are you taking at the end of the day?
That's the trouble.
I think you're probably still doing about half your core units as Z6s, and then between 1 to 3 of these other thingies.
I feel like 3 is my absolute minimum.
Yeah,
for Z6s.
Yeah, for Z6s.
It's interesting to me because my experience generally has been that the DLT and the Imperialist is not very good unless you're able to pile on like 4 or 5 shots from 4 or 5 different DLTs or something. I think this DLT is very different. You're actually looking to kill things.
Yeah. Without an aim token.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stormtrooper DLCs really need aim tokens. Speaking of Stormtroopers, should we talk about the Empire weapons?
Yes, we should.
Because if you think this range 4 gun's good, man, you're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, get a load of this RT-97C.
Mike, you want to talk about these?
I would love to talk about these. So, have you ever wanted to roll a Stormtrooper dice pool at range 4? If you have, this new gun is for you. So what they've done here is they have essentially taken the DLT, added 2 points to it, removed impact, and traded 1 red die for 3 white dice. A couple things to note here. It is more raw hits on average than the standard DLT at range 4. I believe it's 0.25 better. Maybe not that much. But
yeah, that's what it is.
Very marginally better.
Yeah, it's 0.25 better.
Yeah. What's more interesting, though, and more relevant to the conversation is that aim tokens are now very good at range 4.
Yep.
Because you can reroll all 3 white dice in this pool. I think this, at least in the meta we are in now, with no armor really to speak of, except for some places that are running RTs. This gun pretty much straight up replaces the DLT, in my mind. Being able to pretty consistently hit like 3 hits. I don't know exactly what it is with an aim token. I'm sure that our man Kyle here can probably speak to the exact numbers. At range 4 is way better than an average DLT against infantry.
It's definitely better through cover because you got double the crit chance with 4 dice.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and the fact that you're just rolling a lot more dice at range 4. I think it's kind of a Imperial Z6 at range 4, just how I feel about it. Except the aim tokens are so much better for you.
Yep.
I like this gun for 2 reasons. 1, it has a rotary cartridge. 2,
Sure.
It doesn't have impact.
Well, it's interesting. I love in this release. It's like, okay, so if I take the RT97, that's fine now. But what if all the Empire players start taking RT97s and then people start taking armor again?
Right. What happens when your RT97 list comes up against like a double land speeder and you don't have any real tools to handle it? Like you're just hoping for crits.
So yeah, I did in fact run the sim for what that RT97 looks like at range 4 with an aim token, and it's a little over 2 hits, 2.22. So not too bad.
You're gonna kill stuff at range 4, guys.
Yep.
Are you sensing a trend? Range 4 guns that go through cover. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've more than sensed it ever since the mortar hit TTS. Oh man.
It's everything I told you it would be, isn't it?
That thing is nuts.
Yeah.
To go, I'm gonna roll out. I'm gonna roll out for this crit and then reroll these 2 dice into a surge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying your life, Rebel Troopers? No.
Nope. Yeah.
That doesn't even account for the suppression tokens.
Nope.
Did it feel like you needed to fire support with it?
No.
Oh, yeah. I love it when I'm right. All right. So there's another gun in here.
There is.
There is.
Yeah, the T21.
Yeah. In case you didn't enjoy Stormtrooper white dice enough, they said, hey, guys, if you want to roll some more white dice, here's some more white dice. So it's range 1 to 3. It's got 4 white dice on it. And it appears to have critical on it. I can't read the number. Is there a bigger screenshot of this?
Let's see. What does it say?
I don't think so. I think it's just the fuzzy.
All right. It's critical 1 or 2.
It's 2 on my monitor. It says 2.
Okay. So it's notable that critical doesn't do a ton to this dice pool because they already surged to hit.
Right. It helps.
Go ahead.
It helps a little bit against cover, because it raises your floor, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty good against armor.
It's fine. It's not better than the DLT.
It costs more than the DLT.
You know what? It is better than the DLT against armor.
Really?
Yep. It averages 0.2 more hits, 0.2 more impact. 0.2 more impact hits than the DLT does.
Even that accounts for like natural crits on the DLT?
Yep.
Okay. I stand corrected. It's a little bit better than the DLT against armor.
A little bit. Not a lot.
It also loses range 4.
And it's more, that's an average, right? It's more swingy because you got to roll those surges, right?
Yeah, this is like putting a Z6 in a Stormtrooper unit is how I feel about this gun.
Yeah. Or what do you call that? The new VAT weapon. I mean, it's literally the VAT weapon, right? It's the same thing.
Yep. It's cheaper.
Yeah, it's 4 points cheaper than the VAT weapon on red saves.
To be fair.
Oh man, I gotta get out of this rabbit hole.
You're adding it to a pool with white dice instead of
to hit, but that's not true. So, that's not true. So you're right.
No, I mean the difference is you're adding it to a pool with white dice instead of a pool with black dice.
Right.
Sure.
That's the primary difference.
I'm grasping here, gentlemen.
No, you're not. No. I wasn't being sarcastic. I'm sorry if it came out that way.
I was being sarcastic.
Okay, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. The best attacks in this game have like some fairly high quality dice to be their foundations.
Yep.
Yes. Like red dice in a stormtrooper pool.
Right.
You know. Yeah. So we already talked about vets. But as far as this thing is concerned, like, what do you think the reasons to take this would be over like a DLT or now the RT97?
Fun.
I'm gonna be honest, guys. If armor's not a thing, I'm taking the RT97. If armor is a thing, I'm taking the DLT. Period. End of story. We're gonna go home for the day. Like, I don't know.
It's kind of like a jack of all trades weapon, but it's, I don't know. I mean, it's a little better against armor than the DLT, but you're also sacrificing quite a bit of anti-trooper damage relative to the RT97. So
okay, I'm going to apologize for this in joke. The reason you take this weapon is because that's what the model is on TTS.
Look, I mean, so here's the thing. The one thing I like about my Stormtrooper dice pools is that they're backed up by consistency. If anything, they're consistently hitting a certain amount of hits every time I roll them. Like, I can be pretty sure the red dice in my pool are going to like come up as a hit. This doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's fine. I think you could make a case to take it if you are doing a lot of heavy cover punch throughs and you anticipate armor.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like good with multiple aim tokens. There's no question about that. But if the thing about it is that its ceiling is the same as the RT97C, which is cheaper.
Yeah, it's more reliable against cover, but you're right. It's not like so much better against cover that are you going to pay more for it to drop down to range 3?
So this is what I'll say. This is the situation where I think this gun is good, is when you're split firing. This gun is great at split firing.
Yeah, 4 dice with critical too.
Like that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's super narrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to replace the DLT or the RT97, I think, with this.
They're just super efficient.
Yep.
They're hyper efficient guns. And
I dig it for role playing purposes because this is the Stormtrooper from New Hope, right? Like,
this is the one where they're like hanging out on the dunes of Tatooine, and they're like
walking through town. They're like walking through town looking for Han Solo and the Obi-Wan and Luke.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're talking about Tatooine, these all look like sand troopers to me.
That's true.
If there ever were such a thing as a sand trooper, these troopers would be it. I don't know if that's technically a term.
I think
they've all got that like cool shoulder pad that's not quite so like sergeant shoulder pad, but is a little bit more bulkier.
Look at my massive asymmetrical pauldron. Like that's the thing.
Hey man, it's cool points.
It is.
Yeah, rule of cool.
Rule of cool.
Again, I mean, these aren't aliens, but these stormtroopers look a little bit more defined than the ones that came out of the core set, which is to be expected. But it's cool that we've got a little bit more finely detailed stormtrooper units.
Yeah, stormtrooper and unique don't really go in the same sentence, but
look, man, the sculpts are better.
They definitely are.
So,
much. I love them. I love everything about these specialist packs. Honestly, I'm looking forward to fielding them.
Yeah, I hope that I can you can there's a stormtrooper. It looks like he's got binoculars, and he's kind of like looking off into the distance. I hope I can use him as squad leader. That would be really nice. Like just as like the unit leader.
Mm-hmm. You don't want 6 pointing dudes on your table anymore?
I mean, it's nice because your stormtroopers always know where to shoot, right? but
Unless you face him backwards because you don't want his hand sticking out so it can be shot.
That's true.
You say that as a joke, but I have to do that a lot. Like a lot.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Having sniped trooper unit leaders carrying 2 boxes because I can see their freaking hand. Yeah.
But you know what you can't do is flip Luke upside down so his lightsaber's sticking in the ground.
Also true.
You're going to be able to throw it off to the side.
That's true.
So,
all right. Should we move on to our next bit here?
Yes.
So I just before we go there, I would just like to say that there are surge tokens in all of these packs. We don't know what they're for, but there are surge tokens in all of these packs. Which is interesting to me because that means, unless they just randomly toss them in here, that stormtroopers are going to have access to surge tokens, which means they're going to have DT saves when they have surge tokens. And rebels are going to have surge tokens, which means they're going to surge to hit, which is also very good.
Do you think it's possible that all the now that aggressive tactics is a thing, that all the cardboard cutouts just have surge tokens in them?
That would be a letdown, Kyle. That would be
I'm just saying.
It's far too practical for this speculative flight fancy.
Yes,
that we're engaged in.
It would be a letdown. However, it would be also reasonable considering they appear to have put 3 suppression token counters into these packs as well. So, look, I can dream a little bit. I just would like to have Death Trooper saves on my entire army. That's what I'm saying.
Cool. Well, you can do that with aggressive tactics.
I know.
Yeah, just trying aggressive tactics and coordinated fire. GG, rebels.
You don't even have to do that. You just use comms relays on your mortars.
Yeah, so checkmate.
Good.
All right. Anyway, so you guys want to hit our next thing?
Our next segment?
Yes.
Let
us hit it.
Let's do it.
It's time for Legion 101. Class is in session.
All right, so we're going to talk about displacement because there's a lot of Tauntauns running around displacing a lot of things.
I'm going to complain in a later portion of this segment. Continue.
What, about Tauntauns or about how I phrase that?
About displacement generally.
Okay. It takes a long time.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh yeah.
So David, you wanna hit displacement?
Sure. So when you displace something, before Tauntauns came into the picture, it was generally the province of ground vehicles and repulsor vehicles doing a compulsory move. So as we know, ground vehicles and now creature troopers are going to have to move along their movement templates. And so instead unit moves along this path created by the movement template, if the base would overlap any trooper mini, it's going to displace those miniatures. And essentially what that means is those displaced miniatures get a suppression, which, is great for you.
If they're your opponent's models.
If they're your opponent's models, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whose stuff they are. They all get suppression tokens, whether you run over your stuff or their stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's important, so you can run over your own stuff and suffer the consequences. It's really bad when you run over your own minis because your opponent gets to put them back down.
Yeah.
Some people I know have learned this the hard way by running ATRTs over their own troopers.
That was like my first 6 Legion games, was just like my opponents playing Rebels and putting all their ATRTs behind their dudes because it looked cool.
No.
And then they were like, oh, I'm going to go with my ATRTs. Yeah. Anyways, please continue.
Yeah. So there's 3 steps to displacement. So once you determine that you have minis that are going to be displaced by this move that you're doing, you set aside those displaced minis. And if the leader is displaced, then you set aside the leader, marking its original position with some kind of token. You need some way to mark where that leader is. So once you figure out that, which minis are displaced, you then move the vehicle, you complete the move with the vehicle, and then there's a third step called placing units, which the player that didn't move the vehicle, so your opponent, essentially, if it's your vehicle, or you, if it's your opponent's vehicle, gets to determine the position of all the displaced minis. And this is true for both friendly and enemy minis. So they determine where all these minis end up after displacement. Minis have to be placed in cohesion with their leader. But if the unit leader was displaced, it has to be placed within range 1 of its original position. That's range 1, not speed 1, range 1, which is a pretty big radius.
Mm-hmm.
So that's absolutely crucial. A lot of folks do that wrong. Now, when you displace, you can't put displaced minis back into base contact with enemy minis. So, for example, you can't use displacement to start a melee. That doesn't happen. And then if you displace a miniature, you have to put it back where on its original elevation rather than changing its elevation. And then once all those placements and movements are resolved, then the units that suffered displacement gain 1 suppression. So that's like the large picture of how displacement works. And the reason this is becoming extremely relevant now is because creature troopers ignore the stipulation that engaged minis can't perform moves. They can do all their movement while engaged. And so this lets them freely run over multiple trooper units at a whack if they so choose. And this is why displacement is so relevant now, and doing displacement correctly is so relevant.
Yeah, so one of the most important things about displacement, as you mentioned, is that whoever's not moving the model is the one that places the minis. So, if you displace your own dudes, your opponent's putting them down. If someone displaces your guys with their Tauntaun, then you're putting them down. So just keep in mind, when you're moving a model and you're displacing things, that your opponent is going to get to decide where they go. Usually, if you are doing like a Tauntaun charge on your opponent's lines, you want to try and avoid, if possible, displacing enemy unit leaders, just because a range 1 reposition is a pretty big, as you noted, a pretty big range. So you're giving your opponent a free range 1 move, essentially. Not, as you noted, not a speed 1 move. Range 1 is like 6 inches. So, they get a suppression for it. But if you can clip like a non-unit leader, they're not going to get a lot of repositioning out of that because they're just going to be able to do a cohesion.
Yeah, the dream setup for Tauntauns is to grab 1 unit, 1 miniature, non-leader mini with displacement, but then still manage to make base contact with another mini in the same squad. So that way that defender, or not defender, but that mini unit that's being displaced ends up with 1 suppression and is engaged.
Right.
And then gets rammed by your Tauntaun.
Yep. And you can, Tauntauns have a speed 3 move, so that covers a pretty large distance. That's about, with the size of their base, that's a little over 9 inches, which is like range 1.5.
It's a speeder bike move.
What's that?
It's a speeder bike move.
Right. It's the same size as a speeder bike, which is, potentially multiple units, and they can do that twice, and they have relentless. So Tauntauns have been terrorizing gunline lists, which we're going to talk about in our next section, because they can just run over multiple core units and give them all suppression, and then melee one of them at the end. So some tricks you can use when you're like, if you have your own Tauntauns or your own ATRTs or soon your own dewbacks and you're trying to displace enemy minis and cause havoc. As we mentioned, try not to displace unit leaders. You can actually, when you start a melee, units have to snap to the position of the melee. So like if you want to reposition a unit, like a unit leader off of an objective or something, you can contact, this goes for all melee generally, but it's particularly relevant with Tauntauns since they can run over everything. If you contact like a non-unit leader that's not in contact with that objective, the unit leader will have to snap to you and potentially be pulled off the objective. So this works great on evaporators, especially, on recover, like if they've got a claimed one that's going to come with them, so it doesn't do you much, but it's great on evaporators. It's great if you're on the edge of like an intercept point or, a breakthrough zone or something like that. You can run over the same unit multiple times. You can...
Stupid.
Yeah. So creature troopers can reverse. So you can reverse and then go forward, or go forward and then reverse if you want. If your opponent is...
Tauntauns have like reposition anyways, don't they?
Yeah. So you don't have to reverse. You just move forward, do a turn, do another turn, and go back the other way.
Whatever. Silly.
Hey, dewbacks can do the same thing.
Now, but reversing is important because you need to get around things that block you, like ground vehicles.
Yeah.
Or other creatures.
Or engaged troopers that are not engaged with you, which is highly relevant to this conversation.
Right. You cannot actually displace troopers that are engaged.
Correct.
That are not engaged with you, as Mike was saying. You can't disrupt another engagement with your creature trooper.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that if you're part of an engagement that is also that you have a unit that is not a Tauntaun engaged with it, things get really messy very quickly.
So how would that work? Would you run over... Let's say you run over that... Well, you can't run over that unit ever, right? To begin with, because it's engaged with a different unit. So then you would have to reverse out of that situation.
But assuming that they weren't so when you cohere around a Tauntaun and you're, I don't know. It's messy, but
no, I get what you mean though.
You should envelop the Tauntaun if possible. That's what I'm trying to say.
If when a Tauntaun melees you?
Yes.
And the reason for that is what exactly?
Well, if for whatever reason in melee with another unit after the Tauntaun melees you, which is probably not going to happen, but who knows, it might. Mm-hmm. The Tauntaun can't go anywhere at that point.
Right.
It can't stomp those minis because they're engaged with a different unit. It's not the Tauntaun.
Right. Correct. So it can't move at all. And I don't know. This is kind of corner case, but if it can't move at all, it probably can't get dodge tokens from Agile.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. That is an interesting situation.
Super corner case because your opponent should probably be smart enough not to melee the unit with something else, but you could like force push a unit in there to like lock the Tauntauns down or something. There's a lot of like narrow corner case situations where that could be a thing that is good for you.
Or right. All right, you guys got any more displacement tips other than just run over your opponent's dudes with your Tauntauns?
Don't run over your own stuff.
Don't run over your own stuff.
Yeah,
it's
really,
real
really
bad
don't.
for you.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the bigger things here, and a lot of people have figured this out already with ATRTs, is you really got to know what order your units are activating in a lot of the time. With Tauntauns, I think it's a little bit less bad just because they tend to be on a flank or something, whereas ATRTs generally are with the army.
Mm-hmm. And their bases are smaller.
Yes, they're also much smaller. It's also worth noting that you cannot displace a unit with the second Tauntaun model. It must be the original Tauntaun model that moves for the displacement. You cannot put the second Tauntaun model down on top of another unit.
Right.
I'm not sure if we mentioned that, but
we didn't. But that's important because only the unit leader counts.
Yeah.
Yep.
So no shenanigans. There's already enough shenanigans going on here. There's
a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah, no need to throw your non-leader Tauntaun into a place where it's going to attempt to fruitlessly stomp on some other miniatures. No need to do that.
I would advise everyone that is listening, if you don't feel like you know the rules for displacement very well, read through the RRG a couple times, because the first few times this happens to you, you don't want it to be at a tournament because it's going to take a long time to figure out how it should go if you don't know what's going on.
Yep. And then the Tauntaun's going to turn around and do it again.
Yes.
Yep. And then you're going to have to do it again.
And then you're going to be able to shoot at it because it's going to be engaged, and then you're going to have to deal with it again on the next turn. And that's assuming they only have one unit of Tauntauns. So
Yeah, so know the displacement rules is the
newsflash. They won't have just one. No way.
Yeah.
Try 2 to 3.
It's 2 to 3, I think.
Yeah, they're good.
They're good, those Tauntauns.
Speaking of Tauntaun counters, do we want to transition flawlessly to our next segment?
Sure.
Flawlessly.
There's Tauntaun counters. Those exist.
Yes.
Well,
our next segment's gonna be full of information as opposed to being blank.
There will be information in it. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
Get ready for advanced tactics.
All right. So in our tactics section, we're going to talk about countering Tauntauns, and more specifically, well, there's lots of things we can talk about countering Tauntauns, but we're going to specifically talk mostly about linebacker units.
Friggin' Tauntauns.
The answer to Tauntauns is shoot them.
Right, yeah, shoot them a lot. Shoot them, especially with things that have Hunter.
Or suppressive.
Mm-hmm.
Or suppressive. Yeah, They hate suppression.
They hate suppression.
So yeah, Bosk, Death Troopers with Hunter. Just about anything, shoot them.
So what you're saying is imperialist hard counter Tauntauns right now? That's what
No, because in fact, gun lines are, once they get like amongst your stormtroopers, it's messy. And like one of the lists we talked about a week or two ago was like a 12 activation Tauntaun list with 2 Tauntauns, 6 Z6s, 3 snipers, and Leia. So like once the Tauntauns are done messing you up, then you still have to deal with 6 Z6s, 3 snipers, and Leia.
It's like the lastest of the lasts. Because you have 12 activations.
Right. So, I actually think... So one of my calculations for Nova Open is if I bring Empire, the list I'm most comfortable with as Empire is like a Veers Bosk gun line. But I'm not sure it's, as great against Tauntauns as some other lists. It's not also super great against Luke Sabine. Generally speaking, gun lines are weak to aggressive melee lists. Depending on terrain, of course.
I'm going to have to ask you to play Reptilian Rampage and then go charge a Tauntaun.
I actually think that that's a reasonable thing to have happen.
Yeah. If you've got Enrage active.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you probably won't, but...
Bosk is invincible. He doesn't ever die.
Well, I know. If you play him, in the sort of hyper-conservative last first style that seems to be good... Yeah, he's probably unwounded.
Seems to be good. You seem to be not sold on that. Do you think it's not good?
Well,
do you want to elaborate?
Okay. If I don't seem to go all the way on certain tactics, it's because A, I haven't played them myself, and B, just because something is popular doesn't mean it's right. So we have to be a little bit open to the possibility that the general public is actually wrong and everyone's playing something wrong.
Okay, you heard it here first, guys. Bosk is bad. Let's move on.
I didn't say Bosk is bad. I said you have to be open to other ideas. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to withhold I'm the I'm the king of Bosk last first, so I'm going to withhold my comments on this one.
Oh.
Don't withhold. If you're the king of Bosk class first, you need to be sharing all that sweet and juicy information.
Well, I did. I wrote a 3,400 word article on it.
Oh, there you go. So you can go to thefifthtrooper.com right now and get all that sweet info.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right, but there we go. Anyway,
do the same thing with Tauntauns.
Right.
Is really what we're trying to say here. David, you may not be used to last first in with Bosk, but let me tell you, you will get used to it with Tauntauns, and it will be great, and you will feel wonderful about it.
Yeah. So how much distance can they cover in a double move? It's just shy of range 3, I think, right?
Yeah, it's barely shy of range 3. It's like less than half an inch shy.
So if you last first them, basically they can cover range 6.
Yes.
Oh, all right. That seems good.
That seems to be in your opponent's lines by turn 2 on most deployments.
Yeah. So, and that's excluding No Time for Sorrows, which we've already talked about is great with them. So
also
yeah, if you
advanced positions.
so this is why we're talking about linebacker units, because if your opponent has 2 to 3 Tauntauns and he has Leia, they're going to get to you, and you're going to need a plan to deal with them once they do. You might be able to delete one of them with Reptilian Rampage or something like that before they get to you, but some of them are going to get to you, and you got to be able to clean them up before they mess you up.
And notably, they're much better than speeder bikes once they get to you if they only have one model left.
Correct, especially if they have tenacity.
I mean, just the suppression from one dude running over you alone is a really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best parts about Sabine's explosions is that she's throwing 2 suppression down on your gunline blob.
Yeah.
And one Tauntaun can do that by himself every turn. So,
New York.
Yeah, 2 to 3 Tauntauns get up in your grill and you're going to be in trouble. So that's why we're talking about linebacker units. So what do we mean when we say linebacker units?
Are you asking us, or is this a rhetorical question?
I think this is a rhetorical question because I think we're about to find out why.
I'm just curious if Kyle is going to answer his own question here.
Well, I'm going to eventually, but I want to hear what you guys think when you hear the term linebacker unit.
Well, teacher, I think that Imperial Royal Guard are a really great linebacker unit.
Okay. Why is that?
I'm gonna need you now to paint your ARG with like jersey numbers on the backs of them because why the heck not?
Yeah. So linebacker units are really good to fill holes in your list as far as like where the enemy is coming through. They go and they deal with it, right? IRG are really good for it. Wookiees are pretty good for it. They tend to be higher than Courage 1 units that have short range but are very powerful.
They can react to what your opponent's doing or react to their aggression in a strong way.
I mean, I would argue that they're commanders, but Luke and Vader fill these roles pretty well if they can get there. They're not strictly linebacker units, but they definitely like go where you need them and then deal with the thing.
Yep.
I think Vader a little bit more than Luke, just because Luke's a little bit more aggressive. But
yeah, Luke can make a very capable linebacker unit, especially with force push.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna give credit to my friend Steven for saying this because when we first played Vader, we first played Legion, he said Vader would play goalie. So like to say linebacker, like that's Vader in a nutshell, right? That's what he does. He's like kind of slowish. He was already hanging around the backfield anyway because he's a little slowish, and he isn't really threatened necessarily by one attack. And so he's this lovely, like, beta strike kind of unit that like walks in there after your opponent's already charged you and just cuts things apart.
Hey man, if you want to displace my Darth Vader, you go right ahead.
Yeah, like, please, I love the free movement, right? Because
well, and if you're charging a Vader list with Tauntauns, he's just going to thank you for delivering him his lightsaber.
Right? It's like lunch delivered itself.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, so those are all good examples of linebacker units. I think of exactly what you described, right? Something that it's like a counterattack unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a counter punch.
Right. They can also, if you're on offense, they can also create holes themselves, although they're not quite as good at doing that. Their ideal role is to respond to threats, but that's exactly what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about specifically melee threats and Tauntauns and soon dewbacks. And when they're up in your lines, a unit of Wookiees or IRG can handle them a lot better than your core units are going to be able to.
It's notable that Stormtroopers are a lot better at dealing with Tauntauns than Rebel Troopers.
Yeah, because of their armor saves, and they have black dice with surge hit and melee.
Yeah.
No, man, the guards are going to charge my Tauntauns, roll 4 hits. I'll dodge 2 of them and roll 2 saves. GG, IRG.
I mean, Tauntauns, after they've moved, are not easy to kill because of agile, right?
Yep.
And two dodge tokens in melee goes a long way.
Did we ever resolve they get a dodge token off force push
They do get a dodge.
Absolutely do get a dodge token when they get force pushed.
Yeah, so don't forget that.
Yeah, it's good to note. However, I do think that that's the best way to deal with them.
Yeah, I agree.
You're sacrificing a hit in the process, but like just force push them out and then kill them.
And then shoot the heck out of them, because if they're not dead, they're massively suppressed. And a single action taunt is a sad taunt.
Yep.
Single action taunt is a 3-action taunt, just so that we're clear.
Oh, yeah, that's true, because they reposition and move and agile and attack. Yeah,
it's like 3 at least.
Yeah, it's 3-ish.
That's actually 4.
Yeah. So
Well, scratch that. Just hope they panic, because it's all you've got. How about that?
There you go. Well, once they're up in your grill, yeah, single action is. I mean, it's definitely better for you than them having 2, but
dangerous over short distances.
Yeah, right. Don't forget, if you're force pushing a creature trooper, that you can use reposition to pivot them before you do it.
Oh yeah.
Also, so that could be important if you're trying to avoid displacing your own guys.
You can also displace your opponent's dudes.
You can. Yeah.
And they get to pick where they put them.
Yeah, but again, just don't hit their unit leaders, right?
That's true. Yeah.
It's a little bit narrower, I think, because generally speaking, again, Tauntauns are going to be up in your grill, and the enemy trooper units are going to be miles away in their hidey holes shooting you at range 4,
or 3, but yeah.
No, you've got DLT 2 now. It's fine. Everything's okay.
I'm trying to, so at least in my brain, I'm trying to keep this sort of discussion to like pre-Nova.
Sure.
Because at least for me, the list building decisions I'm making are just what's legal for Nova. And actually, this is my struggle, right? Because A, I'm not sure what faction I'm going to play. But B, like if I do play Rebels and I want to make a list without Tauntauns in it, what does that list look like?
It looks like a list that has a L in the winning column.
Oh, come on.
Not sure what that means.
It means you're going to lose.
All right.
An L in the winning column.
Yes.
You mean like in the match result column?
Yes. Whatever column that is.
Only wins are in the winning column.
Yeah, right. If it were wins, it would be a W.
Oh boy. All right.
You think I'm crazy to play a Rebel list without Tauntauns right now?
I don't think you're crazy.
Like I said, just because it's popular doesn't mean it's right. I'll say it again, just for Jay.
I mean, yes, but Tauntauns are really good.
The struggle I face with Tauntauns is what are they replacing? Probably Luke, right?
The best Rebel piece.
I could see an argument for dropping Leia for a single Tauntaun.
Running one Tauntaun with Luke and a efficiency gun line.
Dave's scrunching his face up.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't like it.
You don't have to like it.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. So what sorts of lists, we talked about Wookiees and IRG. What sorts of lists do they fit in?
Tauntauns?
No, Wookiees and IRG.
Oh, well, Boba goes with IRG. There's a classic Boba Veers IRG.
Well, so here's the thing. I mean, it's classic, yeah, but I do think that Death Troopers are just better in that list. At least pre-Tauntauns.
Well, here's the thing. I think Death Troopers are also a linebacker unit.
I disagree.
I mean, if paired with Krennic, they've got a great range 2 dice pool. They have access to 2 preemptive cards in Deploy the Garrison and Voracious Ambition. They're not going to be able to melee the Taunt. Well, actually, they can melee the Tauntauns because they have red dice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you can preempt the last first because you're deleting the first from that equation, right? With either Deploy the Garrison or Voracious Ambition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue that. I do think that Krennic's with DTs is fine. I think that those 2 command cards specifically make them much more linebacker units than they would be normally. But I definitely don't think that without Krennic that they function in that capacity.
No, I totally agree. They need both of those cards to function like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I also think that you probably just want Veers nowadays. Maybe not pre-Nova, but as soon as Clone Wars is legal and you can get those sweet electro binoculars on our Lord and Savior General Veers.
General Veers of aggressive tactics.
Well, and electro binoculars, yes.
And electro. Yeah.
He's going to be the token master. Is what
98 points of awesome. That's what he's
going to need. Gonna need a lot of tokens.
Yes.
3 aims and 4 surges. There's a song in there somewhere.
I think they're pretty comparable for now, but yeah. Anyways, linebacker units.
I mean, I think Palpatine is actually well positioned right now.
Yes.
So Palpatine well positioned. That's his trick.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, like as far as meta is concerned, Eric Reha R1, our beloved R1H4, proved that Palpatine can do in the right hands just fine against efficiency gun lines, right? Which is essentially what Worlds was. Yeah. But I think Palpatine is also uniquely good against aggressive melee units, more specifically Tauntauns and against Luke Sabine. Both because you have IRG in the list and also because Palpatine himself, it's not quite as good as Vader with, meat delivery to his lightsaber, but it's not far off.
No. And it's interesting because it's like one of those things where you might actually go first with Palpatine on like turns one or 2, or well, probably turns 2 or 3.
How about given to your anger? Like, right. That's like crazy good against Tauntauns.
Is it though?
It is when they're in, because then you say, don't go with your Tauntauns, let me kill them first.
No, that's not what it says. I mean, like, I guess if you put it on a unit that's not a Tauntaun, but then there's still
that's what I'm trying to say. That's true, but you buy yourself that extra time before they activate again.
I think against Tauntauns, it's actually best on turn 1.
Oh, to make them go first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see it, but I think, later game, if you can do a IRG go first and then pull the strings IRG double tap to delete a Tauntaun that's in your lines, if you can pull that off, I think you're in good shape.
That's also pretty good. I don't know. I think that there's some benefit to staggering the hurt.
Yeah, I mean, at a minimum, you're, if you force them to go first on turn 1, you're throwing suppression on them probably because they're not going to be able to or not want to attack your units on turn 1.
That's fair.
And then, you're also messing up their last first activation order.
Yeah. It's also worth noting in this sweet new Palpatine list we're talking about, Shore Troopers and Mortars fit into Palpatine's wheelhouse so well.
They do. Entire Legion with aggressive tactics.
Well, I mean, you can still have Royal Guard, right? I mean, the cool thing about Shores and Mortars is that the pair of them is, 18 points cheaper than 2 DLTs? And what do we want to save on?
16.
They should be one. Yeah. Well, no, it's 120 versus 130.
136.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. 16, whatever. Kyle's good at math, guys. So you're saving 16 points. But if you do that if you save 16 points 2 or 3 times, Palpatine list, like that's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not even to speak of the fact that aggressive tactics is amazing with Entire Legion, and Shore Troopers just generally.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, you'll get to a sniper strike team by saving those points.
Yeah, I mean,
or a medic. More to the point, it's almost exactly the cost of a medic, right?
Right.
It's pretty dang close.
Yeah. So if you do it once, you pretty much have an extra medic. If you do it twice, you've got, a medic and a half, 2 medics, depending on what your overflow is looking like.
Yep.
Well, you got to pay for aggressive tactics too, but
you need Ateon Palp. I think Ateon Palp is the way of the future. Everybody's like, "Oh, esteemed leader." So the guy's got a 3-up save. Just use it. And you got medical droids. Just use them.
Yeah. I
He already
And
paid
IRG.
for medics.
He really wants AT, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
AT is amazing on IRG. You know.
Yeah, AT to give Guardian your Guardian unit a 3-up save. That's
Like,
crazy good.
Well, and now there's no cost to Guardian off Palp unless it's a Pierce weapon with Royal Guard, really, if they've got Surge champions, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, yeah, I think you're right. Palp IRG is probably uniquely positioned to defeat the Tauntaun menace.
Hey,
Do you think IRG have a place in lists that don't involve Palpatine?
So I'm going to say something very probably. People are going to try and burn me down for this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I don't think IRG deserve a spot in the Palpatine list generally.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Whoa, yeah. I don't think they're very good. And I actually think that for the points you're paying for them, it just 104 points. I'd rather pay the extra 10 points and just get some DTs up in this joint.
Yeah, but you can't give DTs free orders or use Guardian.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Guardian just moves the wounds around most of the time.
DTs don't benefit from aggressive tactics.
No, they don't. They don't. But I also think that, if you drop Royal Guard out of a Palpatine list with shores and mortars and snipers and stuff, it's pretty easy to get up to 10 activations.
True.
Well, you can do 10 with Royal Guard.
Yeah, I mean, you can. But... And I'm not saying that that's like strictly better. All I'm saying is that I don't think Royal Guard are very good.
So I think the answer to my earlier question of do you use them outside Palpatine is no.
Yeah, I mean, I've played a lot of Veer's Boba with an IRG in there.
Luke Cook disagrees.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I think that if Luke Cook had access to, like, I don't know. Were Death Troopers out at that point?
No, I mean like Luke Cook's Neo list specifically.
Oh,
yeah. He was using with Death Troopers.
Yeah. He was the guy running the token guards with Eastims just to be a
sure. He didn't win, whatever,
But he also wasn't using any snipers, and he only lost one game. So
I mean, there's definitely some merit to that. Neo is also a little bit more casual than we're used to. But like, Jay's giving me a shit.
Jay's pouting.
But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. IRG are fine. I don't think they bring anything very unique to the table.
I think they're
fine. Yeah.
I think their Tar Pit ability and Guardian are very solid. But I do generally think that Palpatine gives them so many bonuses, especially Entourage and Given You're Angry, that I think that they are certainly best used in a Palpatine list.
Yeah, I mean, they get a lot better to pull the strings.
And pull the strings, right. I think it's defensible to use them if you want to do like a riff on the old Veers Boba IRG that was, Garn used in Vader League Season 2. You could do like Veers Bosk IRG.
Yeah.
I actually messed around with that a little bit, and it was fine. I think you could do that if you wanted to, but I definitely think that, if you want to field IRG, they're definitely best with Palp.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some merit to them in a little bit more of an aggressive Bosk list, where, maybe you're not last firsting all day long, where they can actually Guardian the shots off them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so let's talk about Wookiees. What kind of rebel list do Wookiees fit into?
Luke Leia.
All of them? Duh.
Not all of them.
Yeah, I don't know about all of them. I definitely think so I run them with Luke Leia.
I think Leia is kind of a necessity for Wookiees.
Because of no time?
Yeah, no time and in some save our skins in some ways because you get the little double tap thing. Not for Inspire, but just to have the ability to activate twice in a row.
Yeah.
And get him in there. I mean, I just like them with no time. That's really all that matters.
I also like them with my ally.
Yeah, feeding them
my
to dodge. It's because their save is crap, so dodges are really good on them.
Yep. Yeah, so I run them in a 10 activation list with Luke and Leia. You got to drop a sniper for that, so you've got 2 snipers and then like 5 Z6s with a medic.
That's all you really need is 2 snipers. Three's a snowver commitment. Like rebel snipers miss enough that 3 is too many. In my opinion.
So I played a practice match actually against Mr. Luke Cook last week. And he was running double bounty and I was running 10 activation, that list that I just described, 10 activation Wookiees.
Right.
I knew it was decent against like Luke Sabine and Tauntauns. I wanted to see if it was good against like a gunline list. I actually ended up winning that game by the skin of my teeth, but I definitely missed that 3rd sniper and I definitely missed that 6th Z6. Like you're not going to trade efficiently, if you get into an attrition war.
Was he playing? What was he playing? Just double bounty, all DLT, all sniper.
Yeah, it was like the Screw Tape Garn sploosh version, which is generic officer, both bounty hunters, a bunch of DLTs, and triple sniper.
Yeah, you had just a little bit too much soul.
So it was like I decidedly lost the attrition battle. I was blue on VAPS, and he deleted a Z6, and I was basically put on offense.
Oof.
And like
Kyle, that's been happening a lot lately.
Yeah, you gotta stop doing that.
I know. Except this time, Luke and the Wookiees basically pushed a VAP like all by themselves and tagged it, and I got the victory point win.
Of course they did.
But Wookiees take a lot of fire. Like if they're in cover, it takes forever to kill them.
Yeah, they're the best unit pretty much ever to have in heavy cover.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I need to apologize to one of my RPQ opponents. Good for that exact reason.
What's
he
that?
put his Wookiees in heavy cover, and I had 2 officers Z6s slap him for 7 hits at a time and do like 10 wounds.
Oh.
It sounds to me like you got lucky.
I may have gotten really lucky, yes.
Great. You also don't want to make it so that they're like the only thing to shoot at.
Right. Of course. Like it's not just run them into heavy cover, please. They are going to die.
But my point is they can take a lot of fire. They can push if you need them to, and they're pretty good against Tauntauns. And they've got a good ranged attack with Pierce if you can get them to range too.
I like those games where they try to advance on you and then you force push them into the Wookiees or towards the Wookiees at least. And then the Wookiees are like surprise and jump at them.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Wookiees less than I like Railguard. Sorry. that came out like, man, Wookiees are trash. In this specific circumstance, I think Wookiees are a lot worse than Railguard.
In this circumstance being as a counter to Tauntauns or what?
Yeah. I think Tauntauns deal with Wookiees a lot easier than they deal with Guard. Mainly because of the difference in save. Tauntauns don't really care about cover because they're either shooting you with sharpshooter or they're meleeing you. In both of those situations, you need your saves to like actually carry the day. And Wookiees just kind of shut down to that.
I feel like the Wookiees could still smash them. Like let's do like a thought experiment, right? So let's say your Tauns are all in there, 2 dodges that hit the Wookiees, you ram, you're gonna get like 5 or so hits off a ram.
Yep.
That's only one. That's only like 1 1/3 Wookiees or whatever.
Assuming they didn't get shot the turn before.
Right, and assuming they didn't get any saves.
Yes.
So, or assuming they got like average save, right, which is like 1 on the 4 hits or whatever. Mm-hmm. So then the Wookiees are going to swing back at you with like 7 dice. You have 2 dodges. Maybe they aim swing because they're already in your face.
And Wookiees are what? Are they black?
Black with search hit. Black. Yeah, they're nasty.
Yeah, it's between 4 and 5 hits.
It's almost like getting hit by a flamethrower from a snowtrooper. It's pretty bad. Even with your double dodge, you're probably going to lose a Taunt if you don't save.
Against 6 hits?
Oh, against 7 hits.
Why are you getting 7 hits? Because you only got 3 Wookiees after
you have tenacity. For the
I think it's probably 5 or 6.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you might not lose a ton, but let's say you took a wound, a glancing hit, and took a wound earlier.
It's not. I mean, you definitely don't want to put your Wookiees in a position to get charged by the Tauntauns.
Right. But even if you do, you've got a pretty good chance of doing major damage to the Tauns.
I mean, it's better than losing a single Wookiee on a Tauntaun charge is better than losing like 4 Rebel Troopers.
Yeah, or the entire unit, which happens. Right. It does happen. Tauns get the 6 hit. They get the perfect roll. They don't even need to roll perfect. They need 4 hits and ram, and they've got 6 hits, which is ceiling. They hit the ceiling like immediately as long as you ram.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you're right. I think generally, like as far as receiving damage from Tauntauns, IRG are more likely to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And IRG are a much more efficient target for medics also.
It's also worth noting that their offense is also significantly better than Wookiees with surge tokens.
Yeah, once you start talking about surge tokens, for sure.
And plus you got the danger of pulling the strings to get double hit, if you run them with Palpatine behind them.
Yep.
Like there you go, everybody. Evidence Imperials win again.
That gives the Tauntaun something to think about. And I mean, we knew Pop was easy already. I mean, the walking trash can went 3-0 at Worlds with Palpatine. I mean,
oh boy,
man,
boy. We're gonna shut this down before it goes any further.
Shots fired.
Yeah. So
you guys are co-casters for Team League.
We are.
Yeah.
I think it's good. It's good natured. Trust me.
I think it's worth mentioning the elephant in the room.
And we already talked about dewbacks.
I don't mean the dewback. Snipers are really good against Tauntauns on the way in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they ignore their dodges and they give them suppression.
And they don't really care about the suppression on them generally.
Right.
So just, keep that in mind. Snipers are good. We all know that. But, if you can get 2 or 3 sniper shots into a squad of Tauntauns before it makes its way in, you can easily take one out before it hits your lines.
Yep. Yeah, combine that with the bombard from Layer of Ears, and they're easily down a Tauntaun.
Yeah. So, snipers clearly aren't linebacker units, but they are special forces that are uniquely suited to dealing with things with dodge tokens.
Well, and that's part of why I think, at least as far as Tauntaun counters are concerned, I think Palpatine, again, is well positioned just because you can take 3 snipers and a linebacker unit in an IRG.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid those snipers have Hunter on them.
I know, right?
You can just run Riha's Adepticon list.
All right.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I've never played Pelt, but maybe I'll just show up to Nova cold and play Palpatine.
Look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. If there's one list in this game you don't want to play cold, it's Palpatine.
Yeah. Genuinely speaking, yeah.
No,
seriously.
No, I'm not going to show up to Nova with a cold list.
That's good.
That would be crazy talk. But that's why I'm talking about Wookiees, because I've played a lot of Wookiees. But anyway. All right. You guys got any more linebacker thoughts?
Well, it seems like we're going to be talking about linebackers more in our next segment. So, no.
So do you guys want to kick that to next week?
I don't know. It sort of feels like we've been talking for a while, so
we have been. Yeah, I'd vote we kick it to next week. We had a 2-hour long episode last week, so
yeah, Royal Guard aren't good anyway, so we can kick it to next
week. Oh wow!
I do not agree, but anyway. Well, that's so fun. We will push the exploration.
How many times have you guys played Royal Guard in a tournament?
In a tournament?
Yeah.
With or against?
With.
0.
Oh, really? You don't say. Let's move on.
Hey, a triple Royal Guard list won a competitive RPQ.
It sure did.
I do think that there is probably value in a skew, but generally speaking,
No, I don't know. I like him. I like linebacker units. All right. So hopefully folks at home were taking a shot every time we said linebacker on this episode.
Linebacker.
You guys got any final thoughts? Oh, one more thing to plug / briefly discuss. There's James Steele, the TO for Nova Open, has put together a Word doc basically that describes the terrain that's going to be at Nova Open. And the short version is it's going to be more dense than last year.
Well, let's hope so, because there was nothing on the boards last year.
Yeah, that's not like a super high bar, but it does sound like. So we'll make the document will be posted in various places, and we will also post it ourselves in various places. But essentially, it says that the terrain will be more dense. That they took specific consideration for things like, range 4 units and snipers, and we'll be doing more line of sight blockers and more variety and stuff like that. So.
Right. The point is that they've listened to your concerns, and by you, I mean the general public.
Right. That's the tone that I'm getting from this document.
Means you, specific listener. It's your fault.
So yeah, it's I'm glad that they're, and it's all custom built by Nova Open. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm optimistic. I know there were a lot of questions that folks had about the terrain given what happened last year. And it sounds like they're trying to address that proactively this time.
Look, man, the only thing I care about is those sweet alt arts.
Yeah, they are pretty sweet. Well, you got an invite already.
I do. You're right.
There's a plane ticket at stake, though, too.
I'm aware, but, whatever.
I mean, if we both lose, we're just going to drive in my car, so.
Yep, which means I don't have to drive, so it's almost like flying, right?
Almost. With the speeds I drive. All right. All right. I obey all traffic laws.
Me too.
All right. So we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Mike.
And I'm David.
And we will see you next week.
Join us next week for another episode of the Notorious Scoundrels.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.